Hello, friends. Welcome to Spike Week. I'm Eric Beinfor, and on today's show, we are getting deep into the DraftKings best ball streets. What do you need to know before you enter a DraftKings best ball draft? How is it different from the other sites? What do you need to be thinking about that your opponents might be doing differently on DraftKings? The scoring, the advance rate structures, types of players that fit DraftKings a little bit better, and everything there in between. Plus, maybe let's draft a couple of DraftKings Millie Maker teams and see if we can't take down that multi-million-dollar top prize in 2025. Let's do it. All right, good morning, guys. Welcome back to Spike Week. Today, we are talking, as I mentioned in the intro, DraftKings. We have, I apologize to the folks that were coming and looking for the Thursday wheel draft. I promise we will bring it back at a future date, maybe something next year. Yeah, the wheel drafts are a ton of fun, but we are in crunch time of this best ball season, less than a month before kickoff. So we got to start to dive a little bit deep, and I got to get some of these drafts in. We got a bunch of drafts left to do, and today we're focused on DraftKings. We are going to, after we talk some DK strategy, if you have any questions, please pop them in to the chat along the way. I will, of course, answer any question that you may have, and I'll hit some of my highlights for DraftKings, and we will pop in a couple of Millie Maker drafts to close it out and see if we can't use some of these tactics in our drafts. If we have a couple moments at the end, as Versaire says, preseason back tonight, multiple games, some fun players I suspect we'll be seeing tonight. The Bengals are going to play some starters. Doesn't look like the Eagles and Ravens are necessarily going to play some starters. We're going to get Anthony Richardson. We're going to get some fun, some guys that I've been drafting a lot of. Hopefully we'll be playing, and hopefully we'll do well, Keaton Mitchell, but hopefully not too well. I never know what to root for during these preseason games. You want the satisfaction of feeling like you were right about that guy for sure, but you also don't want everybody else to see that late round guy, particularly that you've been drafting. If we get a few moments at the end, maybe we'll take a look at some of the preseason lines, props and such, and see if we can't get down some action on the preseason games tonight. But let's go ahead quickly, of course. GM to everybody. Yo, breathing fantasy football, literally long time. Amen, brother. Mac is also looking forward to seeing AD Mitchell and Horton. I agree on both of those. I have admittedly on some like Anthony Richardson teams or, Jaguars teams, which of course they play in week 17, Jaguars Colts, have sprinkled a little bit of AD Mitchell on teams when I need a wide receiver in the last round. They didn't get me last year with the preseason hype because I was not an AD Mitchell fan as a prospect, and I'm still not really. But the annual AD Mitchell hype train is here. It's chewing through Indianapolis yet again this year. And they got me a couple times on a couple of last round picks, but I am excited to see him. He has supposedly taken a step in his development, and we shall see. Let's talk a little bit of DK strategy. Let me move my dome around here, get out of the way of the important stuff. Just a couple of quick notes. One, every time someone asks me, like say, so we've been playing here at Spike Week. We've been around for 5 years now, dedicated our lives to this game of best ball. We've been playing DK for a long time. A couple of just overarching thoughts. Every time somebody asks me like, where should you play? What contests should you play? And all that kind of stuff. My answer is generally, I think the best place to play if you're trying to, I do think the DraftKings scoring and contests are very fun. But if you're trying to like make some money at this, DraftKings I think is the best place to go. I think our opponents on DraftKings, there's tons of really good players, of course, at every one of these sites. But as a collective, the DraftKings player is a little bit softer than Underdog and definitely Drafters. So if you're looking to put in, a smaller amount of funds or or just looking to focus on one site because you don't want to, you don't want to be like the total sickos bouncing back and forth between 3 or 4 or 5 different sites. That makes a ton of sense. My personal recommendation is generally DraftKings. We love our friends at Drafters and at Underdog, and I could not possibly recommend playing on those sites more. But if you really want to hyper focus on where the weakest competition is, right, go to where there are more air quotes fish. I think that would be DraftKings. I think you're going to get a lot softer rooms. I think ADP is softer, and ultimately the most important thing in terms of how much expected value we have is the level of our competition. If our competition is bad, we expect to gain more. If our competition is really good, we can be really good ourselves, but it's much more difficult to profit. So just a quick overarching idea on DraftKings, and they also have a bunch of awesome tournaments they have dollar tournaments, $3 tournaments, 10, 20, 15, there's tons of different options for everyone and every bankroll. But the first thing when someone says, okay, I've decided to play DraftKings, what's something that like I need to know? Maybe I've never played before, or I've played on Underdog, or I played on Drafters, or I played the FFPC main event maybe, but I haven't dabbled in best ball yet. The single most important thing that you need to know about DraftKings is quarterbacks. People on DraftKings love their quarterbacks. They love to take your quarterbacks. Quarterbacks are generally priced higher overall. Their ADP is higher on DraftKings, and people will take them with no rhyme or reason. You have loaded up. You have every Miami Dolphin, and some guy inevitably will take Tua unstacked 2 rounds before his ADP. Some rooms, even if someone isn't necessarily totally going off the rails, but some rooms people start following suit, and Tua and Bryce Young and Geno Smith of the world that have ADPs, from 145 to 160 or so on DraftKings are the best available quarterbacks at pick 125. And so you need to adjust. You would say, oh, I can't reach on that guy. Look at his ADP. But in that room, they went quarterback crazy. A bunch of guys are taking, 3 or 4 quarterbacks, and they're taking them ahead of ADP. And so are you going to try to extract ADP value, or are you going to try to build the best team within the room that you're in? The quarterbacks are like the single biggest variable in every single room that you have to be on top of. And you need to make sure that you're building the teams that you want, not so hyper fixated on extracting absolutely every ounce of ADP value, because, which we'll get to in a minute, there's going to be tons and tons of opportunity in basically every DraftKings draft that you will enter to acquire ADP value. From a tactical standpoint, and in terms of players who are more valuable on DraftKings, we talked about just quarterbacks and how that works, but the players who are the most valuable, in my opinion, relative to the other sites, especially this year in 2025, are the elite tight ends. So why is that? It's the DraftKings scoring system. And no, it is not tight end premium for anyone that has come from there, but it is full point PPR. And it is also, they also have yardage bonuses. If you reach 300 passing yards, 100 rushing yards, or 100 receiving yards, you get an extra 3 points on DraftKings. And that's pretty substantial, especially at the tight end position, where we know it's inherently low scoring. We know there are not very many 100-yard games by tight ends over the course of an entire season. And we also know that the majority of those 100-yard games come from the superstars, the Brock Bowers, the Trey McBrides, the George Kittles. So those guys are accumulating more points because this is an underdog. They don't get a half a point for a reception. They get a full point, right? We double that up to a full point. So every time those guys catch a significant amount more passes already, boom, full point PPR. But they are those 3 guys are the 3 of very, very few that even have a chance to ever reach 100 yards in a game. When they do, at the lowest scoring position, they can separate to a level, right? You can get the Brock Bowers, the Trey McBrides, the George Kittles, 30-plus point games that are just absolutely not in the range for the tight end 7 on the year or whatever, and separate so far from your competition at that one position. And this year in particular, I think that crop of that trio specifically is really awesome and particularly supercharged on DraftKings. Talked about why it can be okay to just go get your quarterbacks and also maybe get a second round or a third round or a fourth round tight end, is because we get extreme fallers. Number three, we get extreme fallers on DraftKings. As Nick in the chat says, a perfect example right now, Jordan Addison is tumbling down boards. DraftKings puts uses the injury designations just like they do in their DFS product alongside the player in the draft room. So you get questionable. And I don't know where it comes from, because there's guys who are listed questionable who are just like fully practicing at practice at this time of year. But you also get players listed as out. Jordan Addison is, of course, out for the first 3 weeks of the season. And you may say that's okay, that he should fall. And somewhat that is true, but you will get into some rooms where Jordan Addison is going to fall well past pick 100. You're going to get some of those extreme fallers. Some of them are traps. I'm not drafting the Nick Chubbs or the Joe Mixons and the Nick Chubbs. And what do you do with Najee Harris and Quinshon Judkins? Those are a different situation. But there'll be extreme fallers of Jordan Addison. There'll be random extreme fallers in your draft. You might be in a room that hates rookies on DraftKings. The other sites love rookies. Underdog and drafters love rookies. DraftKings, you'll get in some rooms that they don't love rookies. So you get a big fall on a RJ Harvey or a Travion Henderson or what have you. There's almost always some form of extreme fallers, oftentimes due to those questionable and out tags that happen on DraftKings. And so you can recoup, if you want to get a unique combination, you want to take Brock Bowers with AJ Brown at the 1-2 turn. I'm not saying that's like what you have to do. I'm just saying you want to get that fun combination at 12 and 13 that you wouldn't normally get in a draft. That's fine, because you're going to be able to recoup that value down the road. You just want to lock down, Brock Purdy. You took Ricky Pearsall and George Kittle. You just want to lock down Brock Purdy and reach around to God damn it, reach by 12 plus picks. Let's go that way. You want to reach a bit on Brock Purdy. God damn it, gets me every time. You want to reach to secure that stack. Do it, because there'll be opportunities down the road. You can't necessarily predict when they're going to happen, but I guarantee that they will happen over the course of any draft. Yes, that's inevitable. Any show I will ever do will always I'll stumble into saying something wildly inappropriate that was unintentional or intentional. Nonetheless, the best ball advice so far: get the reach around. All right. Something else that is on the flip side of things that we're really excited to go target and such. Something you'll hear from me, you'll hear from lots of people, because it's true on a site like Underdog, especially half point PPR. It's very touchdown, right? Half point PPR, no bonuses on Underdog. It's touchdown driven. You can only you catch 10 passes, which is an absolutely extreme outlier. You're still only gaining 5 more points for that. And you get 100 yards. You don't get extra points for getting 100 yards. Touchdowns drive the majority of the scoring on Underdog. On DraftKings, they drive a significantly lower percentage, with it being full PPR and those yardage bonuses. There's a lot more points to go around that aren't touchdowns. So these better, what we have classified over the years as better and best ball players, meaning kind of, think your Marquez Valdez-Scantling, the MVS, the Gabe Davis, the, Deshaun Jackson was just kind of good at the end of his career in fantasy, right? But those types of players that are never really is MVS ever going to catch 10 passes in a game? No, but he was a lid lifter. He could catch a big play down the field and come home and hit your lineup in an impactful way on one play, right? He catches 2 passes for 50 yards and a touchdown. That can be a useful score as your wide receiver 3 or even your flex on Underdog. But on DraftKings, just catching 1 long pass and only catching 2 passes for the game is just not that significant. And it's really easy to make that up from someone who catches 5 or 6 passes, right? If you catch 6 passes for 60 yards on DraftKings, you've scored 12 points. If you catch 2 passes for 40 yards on DraftKings with a touchdown, you've scored 12 points. But on Underdog, on Underdog, that person, the MVS, the 2 for 40, gained 2 points on the 6 for 60, right? You draft Pop Douglas and he goes 6 for 60. That's 12, right? On DraftKings. And MVS is 12 on DraftKings in his 2 for 40 and 1 game. But on Underdog, MVS outscored Pop Douglas. So I'm not saying to draft Pop Douglas, but I am specifically saying that the scoring, the better and best ball players that are not ever really going to get home from a volume perspective are just not quite as valuable. And part of that is, as the folks are saying, the yardage bonuses is also a portion of that, because if you're like, I guess you could technically catch right. Alec Pierce 2 for 110 and 2 is technically possible, but obviously very unlikely, even for the better and best ball type players. Some more comments. If my QB has 250 passing yards and 50 rushing yards, is that better than a 300-yard passer? So let's just super quickly do that math, right? On DraftKings, because of the 300-yard bonus, you get a point for every 25 passing yards, meaning 300 is 12, right? So there's 12 points, and then you get 3 more points for the 300-yard bonus to 15. On the 250-yard side, right? That is 10 points plus 5 points for the 50 rushing yards. So they're exactly the same. And again, now think about that as it relates to Underdog, which scored more points on Underdog, obviously, the rushing, because there is no yardage bonus. So as Delu says, pocket passers can be a little bit better. The Matthew Staffords of the world that I just absolutely don't draft. And now, is a bad example given the fact that we have some kind of negative news about Matthew Stafford. But historically, if you put in an encyclopedia, the better on DraftKings quarterback that I've always used over the years, he is of course retired now, was Derek Carr. I just couldn't possibly be less interested in Derek Carr on Underdog, because he is not going to run for a yard ever, and he's not going to run for a touchdown. And he's not going to throw for 45 passing touchdowns, given the offenses that he was on, partly due to him being the quarterback. But he did throw for a lot of yards for many, many years. And so he would be a guy that I would draft on DraftKings, that I would absolutely X out of my player pool on Underdog. There are not very many of those guys, but it is relevant on DraftKings. Exactly. And as Nick says, compound, right? Why stacking and stuff can become so important, and why it also matters in this final size conversation that we're going to have in just a sec, is that think about the 300, right? If Derek Carr throws for 300 yards, it's much more likely that one of his pass catchers also he got 100 yards. So you got the 3-point bonus to Derek Carr, and then you get the 100-yard bonus for Chris Olave or Rashid Shaheed or Alvin Kamara or whatever. The correlation aspect of DraftKings is a little bit more powerful because of those bonus. You can stack. You're obviously stacking touchdowns and yardage. You're stacking catches, right? And there's more points to go around. For Derek Carr throws a bunch more passes, so he throws for a bunch more yards. Now Chris Olave has a bunch more catches and a bunch more yards. They both get the bonus. Now he throws him a touchdown, and just through that correlation, you've crushed it. Right? You got a bunch of bonuses, you got a bunch of touchdowns, you got a bunch of points that don't show up over on a site like Underdog or even Drafters, even though they are full PPR, they're just missing the bonuses. So that correlation angle is really important. And when to think about how much to correlate and all that kind of stuff, I do tend to correlate a little bit more, stack teams up a little bit more on DraftKings than I do even on Underdog. Of course, it's also notable that DraftKings is 20 rounds. So that gives us a little more freedom. A lot of people will use the extra 20 rounds, and I totally get it. We'll use the extra 20 rounds to be like, well, I'm going to take that Aaron Rodgers or that Sam Darnold, even though I have Jaden Daniels. I have Jaden Daniels and Brock Purdy, but I got 20 rounds. Let's take the extra quarterback. Or the same thing, I'm going to take that Theo Johnson on that George Kittle, Evan Ingram team. And it's understandable. You have extra roster spots. Where I like to do it is, of course, I like to take more running backs and wide receivers and such, but to use those to build out bigger team stacks, right? If I take AJ Brown and I take Jalen Hurts and maybe I don't get Devontae Smith, but then I take Dallas Goedert and I take Will Shipley, and I build out this Eagles thing because I'm shooting for that scenario in which, okay, the Eagles don't only throw 14 times this game. We get the big passing week from the Eagles, right? They play a pretty fun, hopeful shootout in week 17 with the Bills, and I can get Jalen Hurts throwing for 300 yards. I get an A.J. Brown bonus. I get a multiple passing touchdowns. Maybe Will Shipley's playing in that game and not Saquon Barkley. He throws a touchdown to Dallas Goedert, right? It all goes around. Correlating a little bit heavier, using those extra roster spots to correlate a little bit more as opposed to shield against my quarterback or tight end risk. It's kind of how I like to do it. You, of course, can draft more quarterbacks and more tight ends. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. But how I like to think about it is adding additional correlation pieces as opposed to additional onesie bets. Part of that is because you do need to pay attention overall to DraftKings and all of best ball. But their finals sizes. In general, their advanced structure is very similar. So basically every that I've ever seen, I think, DraftKings, the regular season advance rate or like advanced structure, 2 out of 12. The top 2 out of every 12 like regular season pod advances in like every tournament. High stakes stuff, whatever. They don't adjust that. Where they do start to adjust is in weeks 15, 16, and 17. But still, a lot of those are 1 out of 12 or 2 out of 12 in weeks 15 and 16. But then week 17, the final size varies wildly. The Millie Maker that we're going to draft here in just a second, huge, more than 1,000 people in the Millie Maker final. Whereas you kind of move to smaller fields or higher stakes and say the 555, the Monster Millionaire, is only 52 people in the final. And instead of 1 out of 12 in week 15, it's 2 out of 8. Right. So they just kind of adjust. So make sure you look into the advancement structures on DraftKings. They're a little bit different. And then similar to what we're talking about, how do you use those extra roster spots can vary based upon the specific contest that you are in. I still, again, kind of like making bigger, broader team bets with my extra roster spots, taking extra fly. If I draft a robust running back team, I would love to have extra flyers to just take some shots on some wide receivers later, as opposed to using it, at say a tight end position. But you can't really go wrong. But it does really matter which sort of contest you are in. The strong side is another one Delu mentions. I believe that is the $59 tournament, 100K to first, something like that. But it's only a 22-person final, right? So those are wildly different. The stuff like week 17 correlation in a 22-person final, it's technically not nothing, right? It's not a zero impact, but it's the impact is muted significantly. The smaller the final is, the less you care about hitting this insane, right? This Eagles and Bills game just goes nuts. There's 80 points. Like that, sure, that's nice, but it's not necessary. You only have to beat 21 other people. If like the Eagles just go nuts, it's probably good enough in a contest like that. They have a great contest. The $100 3 max, like from a higher stakes perspective, is also one of my favorite tournaments. If you want to bump up just a little bit, they have a $250 single entry tournament. There's a lot of different options, all the way down to the $1 King of the Desert stuff, which I've even entered some of the low level King of the Desert stuff. It's awesome. They have a $3 20 max play action that I think like absolutely everybody on the planet, no matter who you are playing best ball, should be playing all their $3 20 maxes on DraftKings. And then of course the flagship Millie Maker that they have and high stakes stuff. There's something for everybody for sure, but make sure you check those kind of advancement structures. We're about 25 minutes in. Let's skip the player targets, and we will get into some of them as we pop into a draft here and talk through some of our favorite players on DraftKings during the draft. Let's see. And of course, we are entering into the $20 Millie Maker. We need 6 players. So we should be able to fill this pretty quickly, I would think. That's funny, Chris. Well, when you don't draft live with us, you're pulling up Restrepo on that round 20 pick. I can guarantee you that is not happening during the the Derek Carr example, Adam says that would mean Olave gets to 20 points, which is physically impossible. That much we have learned. That is for sure. It doesn't matter how good Chris Olave is at football. It doesn't matter how many yards Derek Carr or Spencer Rattler or whoever throws for it. Olave is only going to score about 18 PPR points. Nick loves the DraftKings rooms. Also mentions having, we only need one more, having some bullets left. I guess that is another thing that I probably should admittedly have mentioned is the DraftKings rooms. If you are even like a remotely serious player, honestly, if you're not, no matter who you are, level 1, level 2, level 10, whatever, green belt, black belt, yellow belt. I don't know what the difference is in all the belts. I'm not an expert in karate, but the rooms get crazier and crazier the closer we get to the season. One of the things that we know with certainty in a DK summer is that these draft rooms are gonna be absolutely nuts. They're already nuts, but like, let's call it the last week and a half or 2 weeks heading into the season. It's just a lot of people. They might run some promos that bring some people in that don't really know what they're doing. They just have some people that are getting interest. They're promoting their best ball products a little bit more. They might just have some people getting a little bit more interested than in historic years. The game is growing a little bit more, so you get a lot more of the influx of new guys, and that creates some advantageous rooms. So while you may want to scoop, draft earlier to scoop some value that didn't exist at the end of the draft cycle, right? Think Emeka Ibuka. Emeka Ibuka was going in the 90s earlier this summer on DraftKings and is going to probably be in the 60s here pretty soon. It would be great to have teams, of course, with that, but I don't want to use all of them during that time, because during August is when we gain a bunch of information that we didn't have before. We start to see who the backups are. We learn about this Mixon Chubb stuff. We learn about this Najee stuff. We learn about a lot of different information. But also the rooms just get even softer. If we think that they're soft as it is on DraftKings, they get crazier and crazier as the summer goes on, and you're going to be able to extract some value that you wouldn't in June, because it's a bunch of kind of good drafters in June, generally speaking. Just what we would call sickos drafting fantasy football teams in June. My family still looks at me crazy, and we're at like friends' houses, and you're like friend of a friend. Oh, what do you do for a living? And I talk about fantasy football. Like, oh, so that's about to get started, right? That's something they'll constantly say. Oh, so things are about to get started for you. Like, oh no, brother. Things aren't about to get started. Things have been started. I'm going to take Jahmyr Gibbs at the 105 here. If you have not seen, yesterday we posted the very first mini-sode in a series with myself, Rob, and Bernie, as we are slow drafting a 555, a $555 monster millionaire here on DraftKings. We're slow drafting one together as a group and recording our kind of thoughts, strategies from all three of us every time we are on the clock, and putting out a little mini-sode. We put our overall strategy and round one selection out yesterday. It is on the channel. You can find it, of course, here or in your pod feed if you're listening to this via audio, Spotify, and such. And we did take Jahmyr Gibbs, but we talked quite a bit there about how we are more comfortable, and I certainly am more comfortable with some. Now, I don't like to go crazy heavy early running back like some folks do. I like to take my early running back and then build it in a different way than a lot of other early. Like, the most popular second round player with Jahmyr Gibbs is Jonathan Taylor. The most popular third round players with Jahmyr Gibbs plus Jonathan Taylor are Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson. We have that because DraftKings sent out the data. And of course, if you use our Draft IQ tool, you can go and look at your opponent's teams. you can see what the most likely or the most possible, what the most popular player combinations are from your opponent's drafts using our Draft IQ tool. So we have a bunch of different ways to see what your opponents are doing, and we can build some of our Gibbs, Bajan, Saquon, whatever floats your boat. I don't really have Lad with Gibbs much, but I just mentioned that Gibbs or that elite tight end is an absolute slam dunk on DraftKings, and I believe in it passionately. Bowers, McBride, Kittle. I'm gonna try to get like something like 60+% of my team having one of those guys. It's like my general arbitrary type goal. That would obviously mean like 20% of all three. And I'm going to try to move them around the board. I'm going to try to get them paired up with a bunch of different guys, get them paired up with late tight ends and mid-round tight ends and different stacks and different teammates of theirs, different first-round picks. I'm trying to do a bunch of that. And I have 15% Trey McBride, you saw there, and 16% of my Jahmyr Gibbs teams had Trey McBride. So adding another one, I think feels pretty good, actually. Adam says, is Lad falling with the Keenan news? It does appear so a little bit. And as we mentioned earlier, the Q tag that is on Lad McConkey, which is absolutely hilarious. Like it's like if a guy misses a practice, they miss one training camp practice, they put a Q tag on the guy, and sometimes that will cause a fall. But I think it's the combination of the two, on at least on DraftKings. And Lad's not falling a bunch. You see, he went. I think that's Mossy right after me at pick 21, and I have Trey McBride ranked in this spot anyway, so it's not a big deal for me. But Lad is falling a little, just a small tick after the Keenan news. See if I would love. Let's see. Josh Allen available. So I only have Allen on 6% of my Trey McBride teams. That's pretty fun. I do have Hampton on 50% of get this last number is my Gibbs plus McBride. Every time I took Gibbs and McBride, 50% of them have Hampton, 25% of them have Marv. JSN I don't really have with either of these guys. Let's do JSN. Speaking of player targets, we talked about elite tight ends. We talked about some early running backs. Being willing to take some early running backs a little bit more on DraftKings than it's counterintuitive, right? You would think, and one would say, and it would be theoretically logical that on Underdog, with it being a touchdown and half-point PPR format, like touchdown-driven half-point PPR format, that your early running backs, you want to take more of them there. And that's technically true from the scoring system perspective. Full-point PPR with bonuses is better for the wide receivers. However, on DraftKings, the draft environment, this is why you can't just look at one thing. You have to take it all, the whole picture together, right? There's different levers that get pulled on different sites, and we're pulling those different levers for different reasons on different sites. On DraftKings, we talked about the rooms are softer. I'm going to get fallers. I'm going to get wide receiver values. There are, we can just walk through it. I don't care if the folks that are in this room, snipe me on this. T-Mac, Tedero McMillan goes 49th. Yeah, that's about a half round cheaper than he goes on Underdog. George Pickens, also about a half round cheaper than he goes on Underdog. Rashee Rice, if you like him, he's multiple rounds cheaper than he is on Underdog. Devontae Smith, way too cheap. Zay Flowers, also an incredible pick for full point PPR. Goes at pick 57. Jalen Waddle, pick 59. Travis Hunter, pick 61. And on and on and on. Ibuka is rising up a little bit, but Pearsall, cheaper than he is on Underdog. There are wide receiver values that occur later in these drafts that I cannot get on an Underdog or a Drafters. The drafters on Drafters and Underdog are sharper. They don't allow those things to happen. They don't let those kind of ADPs sit there for us to take advantage of. And so I'm more willing to dabble in particularly Gibbs is the guy for me. I officially moved Jahmyr Gibbs up to the 103 behind Chase and CeeDee Lamb recently. But if you like Bijan, if you like Saquon, if you like CMC a better pick also on DraftKings, in my opinion. You are kind of forgiven by the room for taking the running back early. That is just not quite as true on Underdog. The other thing about I'm kind of shocked I only have Jameson Williams you see highlighting in orange because, of course, he correlates with Jahmyr Gibbs. I'm a little bit surprised I have that little of him with these guys. So let's go ahead and do JMO, who I'm excited about this year. The other thing, I know this is DraftKings, but the difference is that in half PPR with no bonuses, running backs are more valuable at the top, but all running backs are more valuable, right? That's what made Kyren Williams an even better pick on Underdog in his breakout season, because if the scoring makes running back overall more powerful on that site, that means all running backs are more powerful on that site, which means these superstar wide receivers paired with the whatever, right? Bucky Irving, Chase Brown, Chuba Hubbard, Kyren Williams, Rashad Penny of several seasons ago, the breakout running back, particularly down the stretch, is so valuable on that site that the superstar wide receivers actually, oddly enough, it's totally counterintuitive, but get a little bit of a boost there. They're obviously great on DraftKings as well, but just kind of talking through some of the subtle things that I think can sneak up on people in the best ball space. Are you projecting a similar workload for Montgomery this year, or just thinking they'll run a little bit more to the defense being back healthy? If I did like a straight projection, I would, and I haven't done projections. I'm unsure if I'm going to do projections this season. However, if I did, I'm thinking about doing some contingent value projections. So as opposed to just like straight going through the whole process of projecting this is bonkers to me. A reason why we can draft Jahmyr Gibbs and Trey McBride in the first couple rounds is Devontae Smith is available here. I know Zay already went, I assume, to the Lamar drafter, but I can get Devontae freaking Smith, Heisman winner, stud NFL wide receiver, all because they're scared. The DraftKings drafters are scared about how much the Eagles are going to pass. And guess what? At this price, who gives a shit? If they don't pass anymore, the dude had 84 catches for 1,000 yards and 9 touchdowns. He's got 30-point games in here, multiple of them. Multiple 30-point games. He's got multiple 20-point games. He's got contingent value if something happens to A.J. Brown. He's got contingent value if something happens to the corpse of Dallas Goedert. He's got that was mean. Dallas Goedert wasn't that bad last year. It's so consolidated. They only throw to 2.5 guys on offense. I cannot figure out why Devontae Smith is going so cheaply. It doesn't make any sense. That's too good of a football player and too good of an offense with too much upside. We just saw multiple 30-point games in his log last year when they were the lowest passing volume team in the NFL by a wide margin. What happens when they pass just a little bit more? No one's saying them to throw 650 times. We're saying, what if they pass a little bit more? Like they have every other season. Tougher schedule after having won the Super Bowl. Some pretty. The defense is still going to be good. So every time you say one of these things, people are like, "Oh, you think the Philadelphia Eagles defense is going to suck now?" Like, no, absolutely not. But they had significant attrition on defense. They lost several starters, and one of their big features on the Eagles defense during this historic run they've been on is depth on defense, particularly up front on the defensive line. So they lost multiple starters in the secondary, multiple starters up front. They're still going to be very good, but they're much more thin now. I think they're going to take a small step back, which means they could still be top 5 and take a small step back, but they could take a small step back. All of these things add up to more potential, and not just like more potential passing volume over the course of the season, but like in any one game, it can now shoot out more easily. Right. That's the best ball thing is like, I don't really care if he has some down games because I'm going to draft a bunch of wide receivers. In those 3-point weeks, I got other wide receivers. But what I want is the ability for them to have these big shootout games where they throw a bunch more. And I think that that's in the cards for this year. All right, let's see here. Okay, looks like I've done Rome on one of these teams already. I don't want to do that. I am still just trying to get Ricky Pearsall onto teams. The Ricky Pearsall drumbeat, I know I have a significant amount of Pearsall with a lot of these guys already, but he is another reason when we talk about taking a Gibbs, taking a Trey McBride, like this kind of stretch of wide receivers feels really good. Like I didn't take a wide receiver for the first 2 picks, and we still have JSN, Jameson Williams, Devontae Smith, Ricky Pearsall. It's a solid wide receiver room. As is tradition, I got off track here. My projection is that Gibbs gets a little bit more work. To Chris's question about Demont, is that Gibbs gets a little more work because while Demont will be back, I assume he'll be totally fine. He's a year older. Gibbs is a year older, but Gibbs is stepping into his prime at age 23. And well, we coined it. We talked about this yesterday on the first round pick of our 555. You and our good friend Ben Gretsch has used this phrase as well. I think it's becoming kind of the phrase that everyone is using. With Jahmyr Gibbs, what he did down the stretch last season feels very much like a you can't put the genie back in the bottle type situation. It's like it's out. He might be the best running back in the NFL. He showed us that. Are you really going to go back to giving a full split to David Montgomery? It's a new coaching staff in terms of the offensive coordinator, right? Ben Johnson is gone. It's not a new coaching staff. It's a new OC. I do think the defense is going to be much improved, and so they could lean even more into Jahmyr Gibbs. The constant drumbeat that is just as notable. So 2 things. One, David Montgomery was, if we're labeling like starters in offenses, David Montgomery used to always start the game for the Lions. He got the first series, and interestingly, in practice, he always was the first guy to get every rep, right, at every running back drill. I know this is very, like, you want to talk about, this isn't hand in the dirt. This is like nose in the dirt type stuff going on here. I am quite terrified about this Jaden Reed never playing outside stuff, but I'm pretty excited about his spike week potential here, and I'm trying to get me some more Packers. And of course, I mean, again, JSN, Jameson Williams, Devontae Smith, Ricky Pearsall, Jaden Reed alongside to get that wide receiver room when you didn't take a wide receiver for the first 2 rounds seems like a pretty big win to me. But Jahmyr Gibbs now, right, in these practices is the running back getting the first rep. He's leading the group through the run. And I know like that's like super cheesy stuff, but like there's certain things that like your ears really perk up, or I guess when you're reading it, your eyes perk up. Alarms go off, alarm bells are going off as you're reading 32 beat writers and he's reposting what these beats are saying. The other, kind of consistent drumbeat that's coming out is how much they're using Gibbs as a receiver. Not, and I don't mean just like he is lining up at receiver more, but talking about their new OC has specifically talked about with him and JMO as like sort of his methodology is a little different than Ben Johnson. Ben Johnson has a lot of that like Kyle Shanahan in him, which is not a bad thing, but it is a thing in which Kyle Shanahan likes to scheme things up. Again, like you see that with like Mike McDaniel as well. A lot of like scheming things for their best players and like, which is good, but also kind of like it's almost like a little bit of hubris in that I'm going to be the reason why. It's very Lane Kiffin. If you watch Lane Kiffin at Ole Miss, like he's going to scheme something up. He's going to outsmart his opponent. It may go to his best player, but he's not just like throwing as many quick screens to guys and just saying get the ball into their hands. New Lions offensive coordinator has been talking about let's just get the ball to Jahmyr Gibbs. Let's just get the ball to Jameson Williams because they're that explosive. Let's just let them do their thing. And we don't have to like necessarily scheme up all these trick plays like Ben Johnson would do. Again, not necessarily right or wrong. Ben Johnson was an incredible offensive coordinator and will probably be very good for the Bears, but just a small difference that has me more bullish on Jahmyr Gibbs. Yep, I think this totally makes sense. Adam says that's why I'm out on Trey Harris. Lane Kiffin, fake yards per route run merchant. What I will say is Lane Kiffin has never been able to get someone to have the production that Trey Harris had. Elijah Moore, Jonathan Mingo, the Tennessee guys, nobody was like he's able to extract value out of guys that maybe aren't as good as their analytics would indicate, but nobody did what Trey Harris did. 5.15 yards per route run after like 3 point whatever he had the year before is nuts. So I still think there's some goodness in the bag from Trey Harris, but he's a very wide range of outcomes player, undoubtedly. And I'm as excited as I was for Trey Harris coming into the NFL. The Keenan signing has really muted my love for really all the Chargers. It's just murky. It's a very murky situation. I don't have I wish I could like sit here and pound the table for something with the Chargers, but I think they got a lot of good players. And I don't know how it's going to play out. I don't know how anyone can sit here and say that they know how that whole situation is going to play out. Not a lot of Kyler for me on these teams. So let's go ahead and do Kyler, I think. Let's just scroll a little bit and make sure we're not missing anything. Let's do Kyler. That's great. Yeah, he was also good against SEC guys though too. Adam citing some. We can't remove what guys do against bad teams because then we would be removing a lot of good games from a lot of really good players. That's what it's a feature, not a bug. If you dominate the bad teams, like that's what good players are supposed to do. There's there's cause for concern when you don't do that against the bad teams. And Trey Harris has done it for a couple of seasons. Amen. I will if it confirms my priors, but otherwise I will include them. Exactly. That's the way to do it. You are a best ball bro at heart. That's what we do. Adam says, I think you can even go RB, tight end, QB, and teams look good. I agree. I prefer more of like a hero running back approach. The other reason from a DraftKings perspective why I prefer like hero running back to superhero is what we would call it, which is 2 early running backs, is that the late I like a lot of later running backs. There's also later like Braylon Allen still not moving up. Will Shipley still goes in the 190s. Tyler Algier is falling like into the 170s. Tank Bigsby hasn't risen enough. Tyjae Spears is an awesome click. You guys know I love Keaton Mitchell. There's the Texans guys. If you're willing to fade the Nick Chubb and Joe Mixon, there's whether it's I'm drafting some Dameon Pierce, Woody Marks, even a Jawar Jordan, Kyle Monangai, Chiefs backup running backs back there. If you like any of the Cowboys guys, which their latest report was the Cowboys are looking for a running back now, which is hilarious. There's just like so much value available to us at the running back position later that I'm a big proponent of trying to scoop that up. Okay, I need to make sure and get somebody in the queue so I do not take Mixon. Speaking of, Sharbs is definitely another guy I'm trying to get a lot more of, and I don't want any of these. I mean, I have a truckload of J.K. Dobbins, so let's get Sharbs onto one of these teams. Sharbs, just a good pick, in my opinion, all around. They are, shout out to Coach Speak Index. If you're not in his Discord, I think you're totally missing out. I think it's one of the most outside of the Spike Week tools and such. It's like if you combine it with the tools, you get like the most powerful thing in all of really a fantasy football. Like I don't care if you're just playing redraft or you're drafting a bunch of best ball teams or 20 best ball teams. I think the Coach Speak stuff is really, really powerful. More powerful than just like reading what all the right. There's people are eternally online and they're scrolling Twitter constantly looking for beat writer opinions, and it's not nothing, but I mostly ignore like when the beat writer says this guy's dominating camp. Again, like Adam says, unless it confirms my priors. But what I do want to see is, who they're playing with. Are you dominating camp against the third stringers? Are you dominating camp against the starters? And are you playing with the starters? How much are you playing with the starters? What's the coach specifically saying about you, right? Because that's the guy who's making the decision on if you're playing or not the beat writer. And beat writers are not scouts, they're journalists. So fixating too much on what the journalists are saying in terms of their football opinion of who's doing well isn't something that can lead us down a very bad path too easily. Whereas what the coaches are specifically saying, which is what the Coach Speak Index is doing, and he has historical data to tell you which coaches are full of shit and which coaches are not, which is also valuable. Seeing what the coaches are saying, and when they're like gushing over a guy, the way that I talk about Jalen Royals and Keaton Mitchell and Will Shipley is how the Seahawks talk about Zach Charbonnet. Like, it's insane. It is. They basically just called him like the perfect football player the other day, which I don't really think is true, but that they think Sharbs is pretty awesome. What does that mean? Like, I'm not entirely sure, but Ken Walker is currently injured. He should be fine, but is it possible that Sharbs takes more work? I think so. It's hard to fully get stuff out of some of the quotes sometimes. Yeah, because coaches are also not coaches are not like, they're not incentivized to, other than like, and you never know whether the coach is like straight up telling us, oh my gosh, this Purdy fall. I was gonna target me some Jordan Love, but I think I'm supposed to take Brock Purdy here. The whole plan was I was building this plane around Jordan Love, but I just can't take Jordan Love over Brock Purdy. Got the Kyler, Trey McBride, and Brock Purdy, Ricky Pearsall stacks here. We will be that is 10 rounds. So we started, for the audio folks, Jahmyr Gibbs, Trey McBride, Jackson Smith and Jigba, Jamison Williams, Devontae Smith, Ricky Pearsall, Jaden Reed. Then we came into the quarterback window to Kyler Murray, Zach Charbonnet, and Brock Purdy. I took Sharbs because I thought there was going to be something. You do see a quarterback run here, as we mentioned. I took Sharbs in the 9th, and between my 9th and 10th round picks, Stroud, Goff, Caleb, Fields, and Herbert go. I take Purdy, and then May goes, and then Love goes. So this quarterback window, you see, this is a lot of people are scooping up these quarterbacks. So that 9th, the 8th to 10th rounds, you're going to see a lot of quarterbacks. It might be easy to say, like I just did, there'll be somebody available there for you. But just, again, always important to make sure you're paying attention to the quarterback stuff. And if you got to go get one, because they will fly off the boards, especially in this range. Jalen Noel. You guys, we got Jalen Noel fans. Yeah, I'm okay on Jalen Noel. He's fine. The price has been nice to get some more exposure, but he's definitely the wide receiver 4 on a offense that I'm so on. And Nico Collins is a superstar, but offensive line and running back issues have me a little bit concerned. They were not particularly good last year with Tank Dell and Stephon Diggs and Nico Collins and a healthy Joe Mixon. So I'm monitoring. We gotta go get me some more Luther Burden on this team. Another value piece, like Luther Burden on DraftKings is, speaking of better picks on DraftKings, he just goes far cheaper. I think Luther Burden is a pretty good pick overall. I have him ranked around 100. And we're getting him closer to 130 on DraftKings. Seems pretty good. At this price, all of the risk is baked in on Luther Burden. Like, I drafted 2 non-wide receivers to start this team, and added Luther Burden, and I don't need him at the start of the season. That's how cheap he is here, and that's how these rooms are different on DraftKings. Strat says, if Houston sucks, we'll see Noel end of season over Kirk. Yeah, but I don't like the he'll get on the field because his team sucks as a bet. I don't think that they'll suck. I think they might have the best defense in the NFL. The Texans. It's certainly up there. It's one of top 5 for sure. Slam dunk, take it to the podium. Top 5 defense in the NFL, the Houston Texans. So like with that defense, and they do still have CJ Stroud and Nico Collins, and like Higgins and Kirk and Noel are fine. Like they're not going to be the division is not good. So it's like I guess Stroud would maybe have to get hurt or something for them to like truly suck. I'm just the offensive line, the building stuff around these aging backs. D'Amico Ryans gives me spooky boomer run heavy vibes. I'm just spitballing. I draft Nico. I draft some Texans, but I just have some. I have some. Aren't you worried? I have some. Aren't you worried about the Texans as we talk about it? CJ Gardner Johnson carted off the field. Says Mr. Nick. Right as we are talking, Shriath would run through a wall for D'Amico Ryans. Yeah, he is that kind. Former NFL middle linebacker. That's about what you'd expect him to be as a head coach. Back on the clock. Damn, I was kind of hoping that it would be possible for Kincaid to come back. The question is, do I take my tight end? Do I wait and go get, you guys know, go get a Harold Fannin? Let's add Trey Benson. I talked about kind of team stacking as a lever to pull here. And let's go ahead and do that and add Trey Benson, RB3, to the Kyler McBride Cardinals bet. There's really no other Cardinals I want to draft outside of McBride, Marv, Connor, of course, Kyler, and Trey Benson. I understand that some people are buying Michael Wilson. I'm a little worried that Zay Jones has done a slight bit of popping in camp. Not something I'm pouncing on as a drafter, but just something to keep an eye on, because I think someone who has been as bad as Michael Wilson has been in the NFL so far, and I was not intrigued by him as a prospect, the routes we think we're buying with Michael Wilson may not be as secure as we think, just because we can't figure out who's going to get them. We're assigning them to Michael Wilson, and I think the median outcome is that he gets them, but he needs to get better to keep staying on the field. And I'm not sure I see that in the cards for a Michael Wilson. Jalen Noel is 195 pounds. How many times did he bench 225? I don't know. I have no idea. 18? I just did 225 12 times the other day, and I'm 190 pounds. Just draft me. I've always been decent at the bench. I got skinny chicken legs, so squats and deadlifts and stuff are not. That's not for me. But I've always had a decent bench, and I've been grinding pretty hard back in the gym over the course of this summer, because most summers, as great as I'll take this Ray Davis, pick 149 Ray Davis. Plays against, you see here on your screen, plays against Devontae Smith in the final. We'll take that. Could use a running back up to 2-4-6-1 team here. I don't remember what I was rambling about. Bench press. Lassiter is definitely good. 2 mules. Actually, in my draft rooms, I actually beg the others to draft Wicks, so I won't be tempted to do it again. Staying on the wagon is hard. Definitely no Wicks. I hope I have no Wicks. Let's see. Yeah. Straight 0% Dontavian Wicks for me here in 2025. I did draft him last year, so this is not a victory lap. This is maybe I'm wrong again, and we should be drafting him, though I don't think so. I think it's over. Maybe he'll pop back up somewhere else, but I don't really see it for the Packers with Wicks after adding Golden. The only loss is that they moved Bo Melton to corner because Christian Watson, he's not gonna be ready, I don't think, to start the season, but a lot of positive vibes around Christian Watson's recovery in Packers camp so far, which have been a little shocking, but something to monitor, which would also not be good for Dontavian Wicks. 23. That's impressive. Do we get fantasy points for bench press reps? Nothing says bearish for Packers wide receivers like the team drafting one in round 1 and round 3. Yeah. Although I'm not sure I would classify Savion Williams as a wide receiver. He may technically be labeled that. I don't know what I would label. That's a joker. That's Sean Payton talking about all these guys being an air quotes joker in his offense. Savion Williams was made to be a joker because he's a wide receiver who isn't really a wide receiver, and he converted to running back at TCU this past year, and he was quite good. He's quite good with the ball in his hands. He's just not very good at being a wide receiver, which is not ideal for playing NFL wide receiver. Garendo is a stone cold fade for me right now. Let's get Algier in the queue. Make sure I'm not missing anybody I really want to be drafting. No, let's like Tyler Algier, pick in the 160s, 170s is crazy. Up to 5 wide receiver, or up to 5, running backs. Will probably I am trying to draft more running backs, like quantity wise, like not in my portfolio necessarily, but on teams this season. Like even on a Jahmyr Gibbs team, like Charbonnet is my RB2. I think historically I would make this, a 5 or a 6 running back team, and I've been making it a little bit more of a 7 running back team with an eye on winning the flex, as I've talked about over the course of this summer. I understand the 3 quarterback stuff. I understand the 3 tight end stuff. I get all of that. My sort of counter to the fact that all of our opponents are drafting in a certain way is that I'm going to load up on running backs and wide receivers to try to win the flex. That's hilarious. Which player are you most excited to see in the preseason? Well, this list is long, so most excited, I'm going to cheat and give an entire list of everyone that I'm excited for. So tonight we're going to get Keaton Mitchell. Got to lead off with Keaton. I want to see if this explosion that we are seeing reportedly in practice. Oh, who took? Okay, I was about to say, dude, see, the fact that I can just now, we're back to being able to freely getting Will Shipley whenever I want is very fun. I'm very excited about that. Will Shipley tonight should be playing. Keaton Mitchell tonight should be playing. Jermaine Burton, I'm interested to see. The Bengals are going to play starters for the first quarter, is the report. So we'll see what happens with all of the Bengals. Gesicki is out though with an injury, but they're supposedly going to play starters. So I want to see what Jermaine Burton does. I want to see how much run he gets. I want to see if he flashes at all. Frankly, I'm interested in seeing just thinking about tonight's games. We got Colts, Ravens. Yeah, so Keaton, Tez Walker should get to play a decent amount tonight. I want to see him against the Colts. I do want to see A.D. Mitchell on the Colts. Bengals also Taj Brooks. Very excited to see him. I'm hoping he gets some extended run tonight. Raiders, Seahawks, there's not a lot there for me. So then Torrey Horton with the Seahawks. I haven't checked in on what the Seahawks plan to do with their preseason plans. I would assume with the new quarterback and like a lot of new pieces that they'll be playing their guys a good bit, but I haven't got a chance to read up on it just yet. But Torrey Horton is the guy I'm extremely excited to see. And in that exact same vein, Jalen Royals is a guy I just can't wait to see. I think he's a stud. I think he's my highest owned late round wide receiver, maybe my highest owned wide receiver. It's him and Diami, I think, are my highest owned overall wide receivers. And so I can't wait to see him. I'm a firm believer that that dude is awesome at football, and the Chiefs keep telling us he's awesome, and people just don't really give a shit. In drafts, Hollywood is hurt. Rasheed is maybe getting suspended, probably getting suspended at some point this season. Who knows? And I can just get this dude in one of the last rounds of drafts. That feels pretty good. Berg, shout out Berg. You don't got to tell me about, or you don't got to say Ricky White without getting me. Or if you just say Ricky White, it's going to get me excited. I was a big fan of Ricky White as a prospect, and we should see plenty of him tonight. One of the best things about Ricky White is that he's the best punt block on the punt block team. I think he can get on the team from special teams. Dude blocked 1 million punts in college. It was very, very strange. Did you guys just leave me Jalen Royals, by the way? Yes, you did. Yeah, 33% Jalen Royals for me. Let's just stick to the brand. I don't want to be a fraud. We got to stick to the brand here. Tyler Algier, Will Shipley, Jalen Royals definitely playing the hits in this draft. Adam says, last year I called Burton a first-round talent with a seventh-round personality, and I think it's my biggest hit of all time. Except you are way too kind. He has a UDFA personality. Definitely. Greg, a Burton TD, and what is his ADP rise to? Well, he's not getting drafted right now in most drafts, unless some spike weekers are in there because we draft them. But it'll be like the KLS thing. Keandre Lambert-Smith, if you remember a week ago today, Keandre Lambert-Smith had it popped off for a touchdown, 2 catches for 42 yards and a touchdown in the Chargers preseason game. If Jermaine Burton does that, I suspect it would be the same thing. He'll go from undrafted to closer to pick 200. And then it'll fade. It's a roller coaster in the preseason. It's like, oh, Burton skyrocket up because he had a good preseason game, and then it just slowly goes back down because people lose interest. It's like it's the TikTok generation, right? It's like, oh, Jermaine Burton touchdown, got to draft him in the 17th round now, and then ooh, piece of candy, right? It's the Family Guy, ooh, piece of candy, ooh, piece of candy, ooh, piece of candy. It's exactly how we operate in drafts. We move from one shiny object to the next shiny object. Of course, Mossy takes Torrey Horton, so we can't have any fun here. So I'm going to close out my running back room with my guy Keaton. Through 7, so we got 3 more picks, 17 rounds. Got to get a tight end and a couple of wide receivers to close this draft. But Jahmyr Gibbs, Trey McBride, JSN, J-Mo, Devontae Smith, Ricky Pearsall, Jaden Reed, Kyler Murray stacked with Trey McBride, Zach Charbonnet. One of my priority targets right now that I just didn't have enough Zach Charbonnet, I don't think. And sometimes you need the reminder that the coaching staff loves this. It doesn't really matter. We knew that the coaching staff liked Zach Charbonnet, but sometimes just a quote kicks, gives you a little slap upside the head to be like, you don't have enough of this guy. That's how I feel about Zach Charbonnet right now, for sure. Brock Purdy, I was actually kind of setting up, trying to get some more Green Bay Packers. We had a great conversation in the lab in the Spike Week Discord last night, which, of course, if you are a premium subscriber, you get access to all the premium channels in the Discord. And part of that is a weekly lab. Wednesdays at 6 p.m. Eastern. We hop on a Zoom call and talk best ball strategy. In season, we'll talk some DFS and bets and lessons learned from each week in the best ball season, right? We can cope when Rashee Rice and Chris Godwin get hurt, all that kind of stuff on the lab in season. But had a good conversation about getting more Packers stacked. So I was trying to do that, but then Brock Purdy fell, and I can't take Jordan Love over Brock Purdy. Luther Burden. Then we come back for some running backs. Trey Benson, Ray Davis, Tyler Algier, and Will Shipley, Jalen Royals, and Keaton Mitchell. We are playing the hits here to close this draft out. Milrow, good call. Milrow should be fun to watch. Well, it's undecided, or it's unclear if he will be fun to watch. Depends on if it's like fun, I'm enjoying this, or like laughing instead of crying because Milroe can't complete a pass? Remains to be seen. Thoughts on the lack of experience badges or draft numbers on DK? On UD, if you see a red badge, you can sometimes predict their play. Does Spike Week have a tool for player notes? Does it matter? Let me make a selection here really quickly, and then I'm not going to let you guys get my guy Harold Fannin. Yes, I prefer him over Elijah Arroyo, though I'm going to dabble in some Elijah Arroyo this year to close this season. Get the draft board going. In terms of the badge stuff, I don't really worry about it. We do have, I don't use it for players, but if you see over here on the right-hand side of your screen, you can take notes. So I can say, Mossy sucks. He took Torrey Horton, and save my notes and come back. It's something I tried to start using for slow drafts. You can do that. Right, I'll navigate away. I'll go back to my teams, or I go to my playoff view, and I can see my week 17 stacks, and I come back to my notes and look, Mossy sucks. That's kind of how I use it. I don't sweat the player, like the other drafter stuff. I don't think it matters that much. I don't think a badge necessarily means that you're good or bad or indifferent or what have you. Let's take Jermaine. Oh God, he's gone. Let's see. I really wanted Burton as my bring back to my Cardinals stuff. You guys stink. Let's go get Jordan Whittington instead. Kind of a late round contingent value bet that I'm trying to make a little bit. Puka and Devontae notably not. Pictures of health. Tutu Atwell, 145 pounds. So I'm taking some late flyers on some Whittington. Specifically on DraftKings, not so much on Underdog in 18 rounds, but on DraftKings, I like to cycle through some of these late wide receivers. Very triggered about the Jermaine Burton snipe. Don't ask me if I'm mad. I'm not mad. Packers fan since 67, 2 Mule says, wish they had drafted Royals instead of Savion. I would be as well. I can't believe they drafted Savion Williams over Jalen Royals. Jalen Royals can do all of the yak stuff that you draft Savion for, except he can also play wide receiver. That seems good. Let's see. Schmo says, is the RJ Harvey RB5 stuff on the depth chart concerning? It's a great question because we're seeing lots of depth chart stuff come out now, the first unofficial depth charts from all the teams, and I don't worry about them at all. We can look at what the coaches are saying. RJ Harvey is playing with the ones already. What the Broncos beats would tell you is that this is kind of a Sean Payton tactic to put the rookies lower on the depth charts, right? It's a motivational type tactic, but if you watch the practices, it is Dobbins and Harvey with the ones. So don't sweat it. Certainly there are some depth charts that probably matter a little, but they're unofficial. Sometimes they're not even put together by the coaches. They're put together by the intern staff. We joke, but also it's not totally a joke. I don't sweat the depth chart stuff, and the RJ Harvey one in particular, definitely not worried about. I would have, he's going week 1, he's going to get to play. Had a bag of Burton last year's tape from Alabama. Looked Will Fuller-esque. You'd have to be a colossal dickhead being in a wide receiver room with Chase and T, not learning anything. And he was a colossal dickhead. Yep. All reports, though, so far, it's early, but all reports so far are that he seemingly learning some stuff. We will see if that's true. Who was I? Is Franklin gone? Yes, of course. All right, let's do Turpin then. Not happy about that, but whatever. All my late round wide receivers got gobbled up here. Could have done KLS, I guess. but I'm really not trying to draft KLS after this Keenan stuff. I'm trying to see. I could have done Zay Jones, I guess. I'm really not trying to get into the Zay Jones business either. Jalen Lane, I probably could have taken a share of Jalen Lane or a Jordan Watkins or something, but this is fine. I'm fine. I'm fine with this team. Let's draft one more. One more in the $20 for any of you sickos who would like. Oh, never mind. It's full. I am the 12th person. Sorry, D. Ross, I didn't get it. Feel free to share what your team was. I didn't get a chance to look at it. Two Mules with a hot take. I love it. Jalen Royals over Matthew Golden. Kincaid rolled his ankle. Jesus. Constantly getting hurt. Kai says, don't trust the DK badges. I'm picking 5th again, by the way, in this Millie. Don't trust the DK badges. Mine is from eSports DFS. That's the thing. So here's what I'd say about the badge stuff. DraftKings, the badges, just come from like overall play. And I believe they also do as well on Underdog. On Underdog, it's incredibly easy. They are something they give you for just drafting X amount of teams. It doesn't mean you're good. There's players that have badges. Some people would say Eric has a badge and he's an idiot. I would like to draft against him, and that's fine. Like they're not an indicator of talent. They're an indicator of I've spent money playing this game. So don't sweat it. They're also incredibly easy to acquire a badge. Mumfield is getting a lot of love. That is for sure. Savion had a crazy contested catch rate. Yeah, because he couldn't get open. He is a mutant of an athlete, but they moved him to wide receiver, or they moved him to running back because he's not a particularly awesome wide receiver. Jack Besh came out of nowhere and took over the offense, took it away from Savion Williams. So you have to forgive me if I don't think Savion is going to be a monster receiver in the NFL. I think he's an interesting piece, but Beast Burf says, can't believe weekly winners is going to fill today already. I'm sitting out weekly winners this year, so it's not my favorite contest, and we can't do it all. But that's crazy. That's good. Maybe should have made it bigger. If it's going to fill, what's today? August 7th. I do love Eliminator as well, Nick. Oh, it was D. Ross that took Franklin, but you had Bo Nix. You can have you are entitled to it. I respect it. Let's see. I did Gibbs last time. Let's do a neighbors team, huh? Let's do a neighbors team. It's too boring to do another. There we go. Mossy took Mossy took Horton from me, so I took Kavontae Turpin from him. I'm not sure that's exactly a fair, like a little fair trade that we made there. That's like the Luka and AD trade. I could tell you that I got what I wanted, and you can tell me like, oh, we really loved Anthony Davis. We really loved Anthony Davis. That was a good trade we made with you. It's like you got Luka, and I got Anthony Davis and a future shit ass first round pick. I'm not sure that that was a fair trade. Yes, I just compared Torrey Horton to Luka Doncic and Kavontae Turpin to Anthony Davis, and I kind of think it works. I'll be honest. I'll be honest with you. Have you made a video talking about a limit strategy for Eliminator? No, I think I'm going to write something. I haven't decided if I'm going to turn it into a video. I have a list of things over the next like literally 4 days, today through Sunday, that I'm going to try to like write about. So we're in the thick of it, and it's always a difficult thing. A peek behind the curtain when you're like creating all this content. You want to create it early, theoretically. Right, like from an Eliminator thing, you're like, I want to create this early so it can get more eyeballs and people can see it and all that kind of stuff. But also, you want to actually spend some time formulating your strategy, doing some drafts yourself, and then you also want to put it out when it's going to be like the most popular and the most useful to people. things have changed in my own personal eliminator strategy. When I started, I didn't start till like last month, I think, like beginning of July on elim teams, and my own strategy has changed doing a bunch of drafts. And so it's that weird balancing act of like, I really want to put out the best advice that I can, and not just like, I don't want to just like check boxes. Okay, did the eliminator strategy thing, did the marathon strategy, did the whatever. Like, I want to get as much of my own like experience behind it as possible too. So it's that weird push pull that I'm not sure there's a correct answer to. Any more pods with Kareem before the NFL season? Yes, sir. We are recording one tomorrow. We should have plenty of pods before the NFL season. Pat has been a man jet setting the country for the last couple of months, and so we've had to skip a little bit here and there, but we will be ratcheting that back up, including tomorrow. Weekly winners is at 95%, and sprint and marathon are at 30%. So here's what we're gonna do. We took Gibbs and then came around for elite tight ends and such on that team. Let's do neighbors plus the elite tight end Trey McBride on this team. I only have I would imagine that's only one team, maybe a couple. Neighbors plus McBride. 6% of my neighbors teams had Trey McBride. That doesn't feel good. So we're going to go ahead and scoop another Trey McBride here. Another Eric with a K. Shout out. What's the latest you saw Hurts go on DraftKings that got him at 58 and Devontae? Good God. Hurts at 58 and Devontae at 63. That's a good question. I'm not sure. It's in the 50s somewhere. And I know I've gotten him like in the 50s, but not 58, I don't think. And to get Devontae at 63, I mean, that's just insane. If that doesn't summarize everything we're talking about with DraftKings and the rooms, like that's nuts. Both of those guys at those prices, even if it only happened once, that's ridiculous. I love Neighbors, but man, it seems like he's getting his foot or toe worked on after every catch. Yeah, he's had that for a long time. I think that they're just trying to do right by him. It's a risk. It's a non-zero risk, but that's, I didn't want to take Gibbs again. And like JJ has a hamstring injury right now. Puka has Stafford who's not practicing. Nico has the Texans shit show. I think everybody has a certain level of risk, and I'm gonna deal with it with oh God, Tyreek. Let's do T. Only 5% T, and basically don't have T with this. Obviously, T plays against Trey McBride in the final, so it adds a little correlation angle. And I don't have this. I don't have this first 3-round combo here, and that feels dumb. That feels dumb. Shout out Raphael. That's what we do. I'm very long-winded, notoriously a long-winded rambler. And Kareem can get to rambling, not quite to my level, but Kareem can get to what I enjoy. This is how my content comes from the things that I enjoy. The pods with Kareem, I think, come from how we both like to think about content, and it's we just come up with an overall idea, like some super high level thing, and then like we don't prepare. It's like, let's come in, let's riff. Like you want to like, it's like sitting and seeing how the sausage gets made, right? We don't come in with all the answers. Our goal isn't to just like solve world hunger and give away all the best picks. We're coming in to like, honestly, it's like seeing us flesh out our own ideas. And that's the kind of content that I particularly enjoy. I love hearing people that I like respect their knowledge on a subject or their passion about a certain subject, and then them just like turn the mic on and like figure it out along the way. Like I love kind of seeing the process of like, oh, I think this, and oh no, maybe I don't, maybe that's not so good, and like dipping in and out of different thoughts and figuring things out on the fly. That's the kind of stuff that I prefer, and that tends to be longer form content for sure. I don't really all that much love like we're doing some of the short form stuff because I think there's certain things you need to get out there that are more 5 to 30 minute type stuff. but like that's not that much what I listen to. I'm like the opposite of the TikTok generation. I don't enjoy like the reels and the shorts and the TikToks and all that kind of stuff. I enjoyed the like, I'm going to sit down and I'm going to listen to these people like really dig in to a subject, oddly enough. Not much Jaden Daniels, but I have Hurts above. But the Hurts exposure is fine here too. Do I take Daniels, or do I do Hurts and try to get Devontae? I got to do Hurts. Guys. Put your you know what's on the table. Do we believe in this thing or not? We believe. Now, if everyone will play nice, and we can get this Eagle stack, I'll be a happy man. I don't know if I ever laughed harder than the backup running back pod with Kareem last year. Which one was that one? I don't remember. I don't remember. I do enjoy it. It is kind of like Kareem and I just like having a good time, joking around, making fun of ourselves, making fun of. That's why I like you can't take yourself too seriously. Like this hobby and this career that we've decided on is very silly, very funny. God damn it! There goes Devontae. I should have taken Daniel. The amount of Hurts Goddard back stacks I have is just disgusting because of this exact type thing happening. But I mentioned Zay Flowers being an absolute slam dunk. That's a fine consolation prize. If we're not going to get Devontae on this Hurts team. Oh, the Achane went in the second round, and Mostert was going at like pick 100, and he scored 20 fucking touchdowns the year before. And now you look back and like, Raheem Mostert literally scored 20 touchdowns, and the fantasy market gave him the old middle finger and did not care. And we were like, it was really funny at that time. And now it's even funnier because it was like, yep. And he was going too high. Raheem Mostert is going way too high at pick 100. Those 20 touchdowns were foolish. Oh, man. That was funny. Do you know anything about Casey Washington playing for the Ones? I know about Casey Washington. Yeah, Illinois grad. Not a very good prospect. But they don't have any depth in Atlanta. He's going to make the team. I suspect Ray, Casey Washington, Kaderil Hodge. We'll see if they keep a Nick Nash or something like that on the team. But I think Casey Washington and to a lesser extent Kaderil Hodge, they have contingent value, right? Mooney is banged up. If London ever misses time, I just think the offense is going to go in the shitter if they don't have, especially Drake London, honestly. So Casey Washington, like, is in the. I mean, if I'm going to take Kevontae Turpin in the 20th round, I'm definitely not going to besmirch Casey Washington from a contingent value perspective in the last round. I thought it was possible that he could win the wide receiver 3 job last year. I don't think that's possible now, but I think he has contingent value, similar to some of these other guys we're talking about. A flat 0 of Jacoby Myers here. And there he goes. It's a good Debo. Do I do the Debo? Yeah, let's do Debo here. Some nice playoff correlation for Debo Samuel here. Did you see the Packers signed Isaiah Nair? Just a camp body. Why would they need another wide receiver? Isaiah Nair's not going to make the team. I wouldn't sweat that too much. If London goes down, I'm going to have a rough year. Both, yeah, D-Ross. For the audio listeners, D-Ross has a Falcons avatar. So I can only imagine. I do also think that Drake London is an awesome pick. Speaking of better on DraftKings, I think he's a good pick in general. But like the Drake London volume could be pretty ridiculous. Like Michael Penix, if Michael Penix is even remotely good, we could get the London season from last year we hoped for that we were going to get from Kirk Cousins, but Kirk turned out to be cooked himself. And if Penix is kind of right, it's like bounce back. What we got last year is maybe keeping some expectations in check for the Falcons, when this year should be the year that we're expecting some of that production. Let's see. Now we took Jaden Reed on the other team. Let's take Matthew Golden on this team. I mentioned I'm trying to get more. I'm also really interested in both Reed and Golden. I have Golden a little bit ahead of Reed in the rankings in this range that used to be the Pearsall, Abuka, right? It used to be the range of those guys. Those guys have risen up a little bit. And now, and luckily, I have a bunch of those guys and took a bunch of those guys when they were a little bit cheaper. Now, that wide receiver range is moving up a little bit, but the Packers guys are kind of stuck there in the around pick 80 or so, and they're currently kind of a priority to me. Maybe Isaiah Nayer can play corner, says Bernie. And that's what they could use. That's for sure. Definitely don't need any more fucking receivers. Raphael also 0 Jacoby. Have you started to sprinkle in Jordan Watkins just in case? I have not started yet because the field has not forced me into it, but I think he's probably going to start getting in the mix. That's the question was about players you're interested in watching in the preseason. I would include Jordan Watkins into just like the 49ers wide receiver stuff because it's a mess. They are I know I just took Brock Purdy and I really like the 49ers, but this Juwan, is he hurt? Is he faking to hold in? I don't know. Obviously, Ayuk ain't ready. Demarcus Robinson, like, are we really going to do Demarcus Robinson? Maybe. I don't know. Or is it Jordan Watkins? Jacob Cowing is hurt. They're a mess. Like, if Jordan Watkins pops, that's another guy that could be pretty interesting to watch. Let's see. Shuby, the most unsurprising thing is our good friend Shuby popping in saying he has a non-zero amount of Isaiah Nayer. Check that one off the fucking bingo card for sure. Okay, I just want it to be known that I'm buying the dip on Chris Godwin, but I'm also trying to get some Tyrone Tracy, especially on these like zero running back teams. I think Tyrone Tracy is a pretty awesome RB1 on a zero running back build. We don't have any good updates on the Scatterboo injury, but just Scat missing time period, I think gives Tracy just a stranglehold on at least the early season job. And, okay, he could lose some work later, but he's going to accomplish the goal that I need from him in a zero running back team of like, help me survive for the first while. Good pass catcher, good, right? He's a converted wide receiver. He's a pretty good PPR asset. And so, given the latest kind of stuff that's playing out in Giants camp, I've been trying to prioritize a little more Tracy. The Abuka steam is crazy, although I understand, says the other Eric with the K. It is pretty crazy to see when the market does finally just start to go full steam ahead on these guys. Wow. I mean, pick 101 Godwin when I already have 5 wide receivers, it's gnarly. Through 9 rounds, Malik Neighbors, Trey McBride, T. Higgins, Jalen Hurts, Zay Flowers, Deebo Samuel, Matthew Golden, Tyrone Tracy, and Chris Godwin. D. Ross says, saw some clips this morning of Godwin looking good at joint practice. Yeah, I'm buying this Godwin dip. Speaking of the stuff we talked about at the very top, like DK strategy type stuff, it's like, I understand if you like just don't want to draft any Chris Godwin. I get it, right? I'm not drafting any Joe Mixon as an example. I think they're very different situations, but you could disagree, and I'm not gonna like I'm not gonna argue over it like we do the Cowboys backfield. But if you like are trying to soak up as much value and use these out tags and use the market against itself, right? You need to go get your quarterback. You need to get take Tyrone Tracy a couple picks ahead of ADP. It's like, well, you can just scoop Chris Godwin, you can scoop Luther Burden, you can scoop these fallers, and recoup your value just like in the blink of an eye on DraftKings. So I just don't sweat. I don't sweat ever reaching for someone. I don't sweat getting unique combinations. I don't mean I don't sweat as in I don't do it. I don't worry about aren't you worried about giving up all that ADP value? No, not on DraftKings. If I want, I can always get it back at almost any point in the draft in a DK room. Explain the Ibuka hype. I guess I don't get it. Godwin and Evans had to miss extended time. Baker's probably going to regress somewhat. And also McMillan was pretty good as a rookie this year. Yeah, let me make this pick and we can talk quickly about Ibuka. All right, now I get my Jordan Love team. Here we go. Jordan Love, Matthew Golden. So first, Ibuka's a pretty good prospect. I think Ibuka. No, I'm not making this comp. Okay, so let's get that out of the way. But there are similarities in how Justin Jefferson was undervalued as a prospect, similarly to Emeka Ibuka. Justin Jefferson was awesome on an awesome offense, but played mostly in the slot, and we typecast him as a slot only player, despite the fact that he was big and strong and fast and all that kind of stuff. That's just how LSU decided to use him. Ohio State used Ibuka a little bit more in the slot, but for all intents and purposes, there's absolutely no reason to believe he is a slot only player. Now the question is, do I take Kraft and do this, and leave a unstacked Jalen Hurts? I kind of think unstacked Jalen Hurts, or go add Shipley later is better for this team, and take a Tucker Kraft. So let's do that, and then have a whole lot of fun at running back down the stretch here. If I really am feeling frisky, we can take Jahan Dotson or something. But so Ibuka has these vibes of played next to Marvin Harrison and then Jeremiah Smith at Ohio State. So he was always kind of overshadowed, yet always very productive still. And that's kind of what happened to Justin Jefferson. That's kind of what happened to Brian Thomas, where they play next to this other superstar, and it kind of casts a shadow over them. And then you remove them from being next to that superstar, and you're like, oh yeah, shit, this guy's really good. We were just underrating him because of who he was playing next to. Now, he goes in the first round, which is very notable. Even though Jalen McMillan had that season, Jalen McMillan was really inefficient. He scored touchdowns. If you go look from a per route basis, whether it be target earning or yardage, efficiency, Jalen McMillan was not very good. From a fantasy sense, it was fine because he scored some touchdowns. It was kind of like Andre Yoshivas-esque last year for McMillan. Like, they were quite bad, but they scored some touchdowns that kind of masked over how bad they actually were at the other normal, most of the facets of the game. Chris Godwin is coming back from a major injury, and Mike Evans is apparently on his retirement tour. The Bucs defense is not anything to write home about, and Baker is a quarterback I'm happy to have him be attached to he is a first round pick in the NFL draft. And the reports from all of every time the Bucs open their mouth about Emeka Ibuka, anybody associated with the Bucs, anybody who is a fan of the Bucs, anybody who is a relative or associate of someone attached to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, when they talk about Emeka Ibuka, he is their Lord and Savior. He's the best player they've ever seen. He is pro ready. He's going to be a superstar. He can play everywhere. They would let him date the coaches would let him date their daughters or marry their daughters. He can walk their dogs and take out the trash and cook them dinner. Like, everything about Emeka Ibuka is like the most glowing endorsement you've ever seen in your entire life. So, given a pretty fun situation, I don't think Jalen McMillan, of course, there's Dallas Goedert. I don't think a little Rachaad White on zero RB team is nice. Go alongside Tyrone Tracy for some early season production. I think everything for Ibuka is just everything we look for. at this time of the year. Corey says, often do you guys update? So they're not, don't use those rankings for CFB. I'm working on getting those updated. They're not updated. I've got the first couple of rounds done. And so they just happen to show on the site while they're in progress. I'll get a note out, but the college football rankings have not been updated, but they're going to be updated ASAP. We just needed to get through some other things that needed to get done before NFL season. And unfortunately, as much as I love college football and I'm drafting college football teams, it is not the single most popular best ball game that is out there, certainly not from a business perspective. But we will have college football rankings up very soon. We'll have NBA rankings up very soon. And this room is like really trying to make me take a third tight end with Goddard, and I ain't going to do it. So quit asking. Let's put Tootin in the queue. I could do Dobbs as my last wide receiver, but I already kind of have the Packers double stack. Let's do Tootin here. Get a little bit of a home run swing at running back. Start blending this running back room together a little bit. Where are you at on Dowdle? I like Dowdle. I don't have like a ton of Dowdle. And I think that's probably something I'll rectify a little bit so what happens? I'm not sure there's anything Rico Dowdle could do to rise. It's kind of like the Tyler Algier. It's like he is the backup. There's nothing that can happen in camp that is going to change people's perception of Rico Dowdle or Tyler Algier or whatever, those kind of guys. And so I'm kind of been like light on those guys and targeting some of these other situations. Braylon is a good one that I think is rising / is going to rise. Previously, Tank Bigsby, Dylan Sampson. I think Ray Davis had the potential to rise and still sort of does. We'll see what's up with James Cook. Obviously, I'm going after Keaton and the Manung guys and those types. But I just don't think Dowdle has. So as this month goes on, you'll have the opportunity, I think, to hammer some Rico Dowdle as maybe some of those other guys skyrocket up the boards and you want to sit out the rise. You'll have fallback options in some of these veterans that just like, there's just like no real way for Rico Dowdle to become the sexy, steamy type player. It's not his fault. It doesn't mean he's a bad pick at all. Sometimes those guys are the best picks, but it just means from a market sense, that's kind of how it works. Speaking of Braylon, let's see if Amora takes Braylon. 16% Dowdle and Scat for Eric. Yeah, let's see this came together nice. Give me some Braylon. So there's 14. That's through 14 rounds. Tried and true zero running back team with Malik Neighbors, Trey McBride, T. Higgins, Jalen Hurts, Zay Flowers, Debo Samuel, Matthew Golden, Tyrone Tracy, RB1. That's beautiful. Chris Godwin, pick 101. Jordan Love, Tucker Kraft, close out tight end, close out a Packer stack. We're sticking with naked Jalen Hurts, Rashad White, Bashal Tootin, and Braylon Allen. Perfect timing, Corey says. Giveaway tomorrow for the Drafters Drafts. That is correct. If you comment on any of the videos from this week, of which there are a lot, every video that you comment on will get you one entry into the giveaway tomorrow for 3 tickets to the Drafters main event. Obviously, those are each $20 tickets. And tomorrow at the end of the show, we'll give away those tickets. We'll spin the wheel for everybody's entries and give away 3 tickets. Our good friends over at Drafters have given us lots of free tickets to give away every single Friday here on the channel. Let's see. Okay. I mean, you guys are going to make me do this Romeo Dobbs thing, or do I go get Shipley now? Let me think about this. I think we just do Dobbs. Can't believe we just had to take Romeo Dobbs. Two Mules has 20% Tracy and 0% the Great White. Hope Godwin was wide receiver 6 on that Hurts team. Have to love it. That's the beauty of the Chris Godwin thing, and the beauty of these DraftKings drafts is that you don't need, like, when you get these prices on Chris Godwin and on Luther Burden and on whoever, Trey Harris, whatever, you don't need them to start the year. The time where they will be coming along slowly, right? Or the time where you're worried, aren't you worried that they're going to come along slowly or maybe miss the first, right? Godwin might miss the first part of the season. Luther Burden might come along slowly. Well, he's my wide receiver 6. If he comes along slowly and it buries me, then my team was fucked to begin with. If I drafted 5 wide receivers in the first 7 rounds and they suck so bad that I needed spike weeks from Luther Burden in week 2, then my team was probably just cooked, because those guys are supposed to do the heavy lifting, because I'm probably not that good at running back, right? It's like the risk is baked in, and my teams don't need that guy. I am overweight on all of the Green Bay passing offense. Josh Jacobs just sitting back and sharpening the blade, says Shuby. I am with you, brother. I am with you. I have a sub 1%. I have a non-zero amount of Josh Jacobs, but basically like sub 1%. Let's call it 1% Josh Jacobs. And I'm just anxiously awaiting the same 22 pass attempt bullshit in Green Bay. Emmanuel Wilson hurt. Fucking what's his name? I already forgot his name because he's hurt all the goddamn time. Marshawn Lloyd hurt. Like, these guys just, it's just going to be another Josh Jacobs year. But I really do like the passing game. I really do like the Packers passing game. I think they're going to throw more. I think Jordan Love's going to be healthy. I think, nice. Shipley comes all the way back. Just need Jalen Hurts to throw some touchdowns to Will Shipley, baby. We are alive and well. Marshawn Lloyd's still top 5 for me, and exposures can't do enough drafts to get him down. That's the worst. That is the absolute worst. That was me. Dude, that was literally me with Kendre Miller last year. And now Kendre's going to be a thing. Devin Neal, hamstring injury, out for a few weeks. Kendre's going to run away with the RB2 job. Just get ready for it. And I'm going to have like 1% Kendre and just be absolutely tilted, despite having heaps of Kendre Miller last season. GM Benny. Versaire, I'm so ready for this year. Excited for all my bags, but I'm really excited for my Superflex bags. Superflex has been a ton of fun. Speaking of our good friends over at Drafters, if you are interested in Superflex from a best ball perspective, Drafters has a $10 Superflex championship tournament out there, which is a ton of fun. Now, if you recall, of course, I have this insane Green Bay stack, and I am a Keaton Mitchell slappy, but of course, he correlates here with that Green Bay stack. I can think of nothing better than a late round Keaton Mitchell bring back, hitting home runs to your Green Bay Packers stack. What's really going to happen is Derrick Henry is going to dunk all over me, but a man can dream, and the Keaton Mitchell home runs to force the Packers to pass in week 17 feel extremely fun. Is Philly playing their starters tonight? D. Russ is in Texas for the week, so actually able to play some TFS preseason is fun to figure out. At least as of this morning when I looked, we did not have official confirmation on the Eagles, but it did not appear. Most folks are not expecting them to play their starters. AJ Brown and Devontae's back. AJ Brown, I'm not sure if he practiced yesterday. I don't believe so. They've just been a little banged up. So I don't expect Hurts, AJ Brown, Devontae, Goddard, or Saquon to play. I don't expect them to play. The Bengals are playing their starters. The Colts are playing their starters. Not sure about the other Seahawks and Seahawks and Raiders, unclear. Ravens not playing their starters. Just for reference. The Saints are so interesting because Kellen Moore wants to run the fastest offense. They are really interesting. So I had a after partaking in the performance enhancer last evening, I started gal braining, which maybe means it wasn't a performance enhancer, but it helps me sleep nonetheless. I started gal braining about like, what if you're laying on the couch drafting your teams on your phone and like Chris Olave falls around past ADP and you start gal braining about the Saints and you're like, what if Spencer Rattler is good? What if Spencer Rattler figured it out in this offseason, right? He's clearly the heavy favorite so far to be the starter, and it's not Tyler Shuck. What if Rattler is good? Kellen Moore plus Rattler plus and a competent quarterback with Olave and no. No, that's funny. Like, these are the things. This is when we need the season to start. But nonetheless, it has crossed my mind, the very little bit of Saints that I do have, of like, what if Kellen Moore works his magic with this offense? That would be something. Let's do Manungai. DeAndre Swift backup. Kyle Manungai. Rattler has always looked the part for 90% of plays, but those other 10% are soul-crushingly bad. Yeah, Rattler feels like a non-insane version of Jameis. Is it like something like that? Something in that ballpark. We have to workshop that comp, but like, that's kind of how I feel about it. Is like, you see it and you're like, damn, he made it. Like, he's got the arm talent. He's certainly got the cojones to make some of these throws. He hangs in the. I mean, Rattler got destroyed at South Carolina behind like the worst offensive line in college football. God, it was bad. But that kid was tough. He hung in there, got wrecked. Right, left Oklahoma, and it didn't go so well. Caleb takes over for him, and everybody kind of buries Rattler, and then he resurfaces, flashes at South Carolina. And then he made some good throws last year, and he made a lot of bad plays for the Saints. It's like, 30 TDs, 30 interceptions. The Spencer Rattler, the baby Jameis, the baby Jameis. Okay, we're 2772. I'm trying to, like, I would love to make this a nine running back team, but I cannot pass on Jalen Royals, guys, in round 19. I don't have it in me. So 8 running backs is going to have to do. I think this is a fine team for 8 running backs. We started with Malik Neighbors, Trey McBride, T. Higgins, Jalen Hurts, Zay Flowers, Deebo Samuel, Matthew Golden, Tyrone Tracy, Chris Godwin, Jordan Love, Tucker Kraft, Rashad White, Bashal Tootin, Braylon Allen, Romeo Dobbs, Will Shipley, Keaton Mitchell, Kyle Manungai, and Jalen Royals. We are playing the hits today on DraftKings. These teams have been a lot of fun. This team rocks. I'm not saying the other team didn't rock, but this team rocks. We're going to get to 8 running backs here with one more. Damn it. Dameon Pierce just went. I can't believe I just got angry that Dameon Pierce is gone. But Dameon Pierce is gone. Also, who is this? Amora, show yourself. First of all, holy shit. Amora has 5 quarterbacks and 3 tight ends. Good God. But Amora just took Spencer Rattler. Are you listening? Is the call coming from inside the house? Tyler Shuck and Spencer Rattler and Sam Darnold and JJ McCarthy and Joe Burrow. So, no, I'm sorry, Amora. I apologize just ahead of time if you're listening. But when we talked about DraftKings being advantageous rooms, but also quarterback thirsty, that's it. That's what we're talking about. Those are the types of teams I want to play against. 5-6, 5-3 teams. No offense. I want to play against you if you're drafting those kind of teams. But also make sure you get your quarterbacks, because there are people out there drafting 5 fucking quarterbacks on their teams. Take another one. I dare you. King what took Devontae Smith earlier when I was hoping he would fall back. It's okay. We don't worry too much about the snipes. I mostly just like to mess around. I should have actually looked at the running back stitch going on here. Let's put Eli Mitchell in there just so. Oh, no. We got to, right? This is the perfect team to close out with Kendre Miller. We just talked Saints. I told you I had 1%. You saw the 1% on the screen. Kendre Miller, RB8, Devin Neal out for quite some time. Did somebody take Stidham? Oh my God, this room is bonkers. Somebody took 3 quarterbacks, and the quarterback 3 was Jarrett Stidham. I'll be honest, I didn't know that Jarrett Stidham was with the Broncos. This is a phenomenal the day to talk DraftKings best ball strategy and have this draft was a good choice. Shout out to the best ball gods for allowing this to happen. What do you think about 4 quarterbacks on DraftKings? Eric says, no, thank you. I don't understand what you gain from 4 that you don't get from 3. And you're losing a spot to win the flex or to win tight end. So prime to be a toss draft. No, there's no like bad pick. Like there's no like nobody like did anything insane in this room. Just because people take players we don't think are good. Everybody, like, it's a peer-to-peer game. Everybody should be allowed to draft the way that they want to draft. Some people think I draft bad, and I sometimes I do. But I don't think there's anything to worry about from the draft being tossed out or anything like that. Got Smith at 62 yesterday in a main event. Got to gamble a little in the huge fields, I guess. Benny says, yeah. Another thing, the perfect cherry on top, bow on top of this DraftKings strategy video today. Of course, as I mentioned, make sure that you drop a comment on one of the videos. That will get you entered tomorrow into the giveaway. We're going to give away 3 Drafters main event tickets at the end of the show tomorrow. So I'll go live at 10 a.m. Eastern. We'll draft some best ball teams and I'll give away some free tickets. Make sure you like this video on your way out. That would be super helpful. Subscribe to the channel because we're going to be having content every day, multiple times a day, sometimes with strategy videos. Legendary Sickos coming out tomorrow. Rob's drafted on Sunday. We got another episode in our 555 slow draft series. We got like tons and tons and tons of content coming out. Check out the link in the description to get access to the Draft Hacker, which you saw on your screen, so you can track your exposures and all that. We got Draft IQ. We're going to have DFS plays. We're going to have what we're calling the blueprint heading into the season. You can see like kind of our cores for DFS, how we're thinking about every DFS slate, favorite bets, favorite sports betting, plays, picks, whatever you want to call it. We got all sorts of stuff. It all comes under one subscription. $39.99 a month, $200 a year. Absolutely every single thing that is under the Spike Week umbrella you get for that. We're not upcharging you for all this shit. You don't got to pay different for NBA and different for NFL and different for sports betting and different for best ball. The price gouging has gone far enough in this space. One subscription for all of it. And I will see you guys tomorrow for my final live draft stream of the week. And again, we'll give away some free tickets. Let's enjoy some preseason action tonight, and hopefully we don't get our guys rising up several rounds. I'll see you guys tomorrow. Have a wonderful Thursday. Peace.
Woo! Those were some spicy takes. Want to stay up to date with all of the other spicy takes we're going to have over here at Spike Week? Why don't you press that subscribe button below? You turn notifications on, we draft a team, boom, you know about it. We have another spicy take, boom, you know about it. You can be there. You can draft with us. You want to stay up to date. That's how you do it. All right, we'll catch you later next time here at Spike Week.